Continued. Page 4. The Visit. After a year of long-distance devotion, Cordelia flew to South Africa. At OR Tambo International Airport, the air was thick with heat and emotion. Vusumuzi stood waiting, dressed simply, holding a single white rose. When their eyes met, time paused. They didn't need words. Their hug spoke 1,000, of longing, of healing, of homecoming. They spent 2 weeks together, walking the streets of Mboning, visiting his school where children called him Sir Vusumuzi, and praying together under golden sunsets. For the first time, Cordelia saw the man behind the messages, a teacher who had known pain, yet still smiled with faith. Page 5. The Love and the Storm. But life has its way of testing the brave. Back overseas, Cordelia's work consumed her. The night shifts grew longer, and the distance began to whisper doubts. Vusumuzi tried to remain strong, teaching, praying, sending her voice notes filled with warmth. But sometimes her replies came late, her tone colder. One day she texted, "I need time to think." He sat alone on his veranda, phone in hand, watching the sun sink behind Johannesburg skyline. He whispered to himself, "When love travels far, it must travel strong." Page 6. The Letter That Never Came. Days turned into weeks, then months. No message, no call, just silence, the kind that eats at your soul. Vusumuzi continued teaching, pouring his pain into lessons, his hope into the laughter of his learners. Yet, each night, he found himself scrolling through their old chats, her smile, her words, her promises. Cordelia, on the other hand, stood in her small apartment overseas, holding his photo. Tears streaked her cheeks. She had not stopped loving him. She was only afraid. Afraid of distance, of failure, of losing herself in love. Page 7. The Reunion. Years later, when life had calmed, Cordelia returned to South Africa for a medical outreach program. She didn't expect to see him again. But fate had its plans. At a rural school clinic, she looked up, and there he was. Still tall. Still humble. Still wearing that same quiet smile. Their eyes met. And without a word, she ran into his arms. "I never stopped loving you," she whispered. "And I never stopped waiting," he replied. Page 8. When fire and water became one. They married quietly under a jacaranda tree, its purple petals falling like blessings. She returned to her nursing, but this time, in South Africa, beside him. He continued teaching, inspired anew by her presence. Their love became a lesson, that even oceans cannot drown a bond written by fate. On their anniversary, Cordelia smiled and said, "You are all that I have ever prayed for. Thanks for choosing me." And Vusumuzi answered softly, "Where there is a woman in a man's life, there is progress, but only when she loves with purpose." The End. A story of love, distance, and destiny. Written by Vusumuzi Moyo.